Hello, Miklos Fodor speaking about rapid repeated restructuring. I would like to draw your attention that there is a very beginner's introduction into rapid repeated restructuring paradigm. It's a different video presentation on YouTube. So let's start with the introduction to the paradigm. First of all, discussing what is living system, or to be more accurate, living complex adaptive system. The living complex adaptive system, the complex adaptive systems are those systems that are able to change internally, and by doing so, they are able to adapt themselves to the environment, and in order to assure their survival. These complex adaptive systems have are really detailed, are investigated in details. Many researchers are dealing with them. I would like to focus on a sub-part, on a subset of these complex adaptive systems, calling those that are living. And what is living? The notion of living entity, I call those that are can be created, can cease, born and died, and in meanwhile they are able to restructure, so they are also changing. The structure of this living systems is the so-called grid automaton that it was described first, very detailed and very accurate with using mathematics notions by Mark Bergin in 2003-2005. You can find articles on internet from Mr. Bergin. Why speaking on so general level of systems instead of speaking about cells or neurons or human beings? The reason behind is that the principles that I found first when investigating cognitive schemas and human beings, I found them valid also on higher and lower levels. And these higher and lower levels, systems like the group or society, or on lower levels the neurons or cells, it's not very surprising, since James Greg Miller's Living System Theory book described that from system theory point of view, all living creatures have the same internal structure. So the key point of these living systems is visualized here, that each living system is built like a graph in the mathematics, is built, or more exactly like a grid, to follow Mr. Bergin's notions, is built by subsystems and links that they are connecting them. And these subsystems, according to Bergin's concept, can be modeled by also by grids or subsystems that are interconnected. So this subsystem is built by this stuff, and if we are zooming to this one, we can see this one, and we can continue by zooming and so on. The first question connected to the systems is why are they existing, or are they a specific purpose? evolutionary theories are describing living creatures as some entities that try to survive or try to reproduce themselves. I think that's a wrong answer. That's a wrong approach, because they have no purpose. They just exist. And those who cannot adapt, they just don't exist. So that's all. Those who can perform something that is in line with the environment's rules, they exist. That those systems that are not in line with the environment's rules, they are not existing. That's all. Of course, that's a different issue, that there are some systems that are able to change their internal structure in order to comply with environment's rules, and this changing is what is the title of the paradigm, the rapid repeated restructuring. What do these systems? Okay, that they are just existing, but they try to comply with environment's rules. When here the trial, it's not a human notion. If they don't try, they don't exist. So again, the same logics. If a system that is first matching the environment rules it stays alive, hooray. That the environment is changing, but if there is there isn't an internal process or internal ability within the system to by internally restructuring their internal structure to comply with the changing environment, then the system will disappear. They will fall into parts, and that's nothing wrong and nothing bad with it. We shouldn't be very happy if a system exists, because if a system dies, then it's a time and space for, especially space for a new systems to take its place. So all the systems are continuously changing. And it's only a subset of it, that some die, other born. Okay, so back to our topic. What do these systems do? They are representing, or they are selecting information from the environment, and they are reacting to this information. Reaction is again a very human notion. They are not really reacting, they are transforming this information, and they are delivering an output. They don't want to do that, they just do that. And how they are selecting information, they are not selecting like a human being that is selecting the best food from the table. They are selecting information because they have specific receptors that the receptor can process specific information and others not. So it's like a gate on a street that is a passive issue. If people from the crowd go over this gate, then they enter into something, and they are these people who are entering this gate, they are transformed into an output. But if an information doesn't meet the gate, passes over the gate, or goes around the gate, then nothing has happened. That's another issue, that by changing internal structure you can make the gate bigger or taller or different shape, but that's as I said, a different issue. So by selecting the information, selecting information is automatically meaning that a model is built, a model of the environment, because those information that have reached the system are only processed. So it's a nice amount of information that can be handled, and an output, a reaction, or a movement, or information is created based on this information or these information. And yeah, these models can be better and worse from our human external point of view, better and worse. And of course, some models are increasing the chance of the system to stay together, and some models, and these are the models that we are calling good models, and some models are bad from that point of view, that are not helping the system to stay together, so that the system falls into parts. That's what we are calling dying. So very simply, if you're looking at these systems, we can call them models, or a model is not doing too much, is transforming inputs into outputs. And as with the example of the gate, depending on the gate's location, size, form, attraction, whatever, different inputs will reach the system, and that's what I'm calling acceptance range. Not all inputs can be processed. So the acceptance range, it's important from that point of view, that only those inputs will be processed that are falling into this acceptance range. This acceptance range is very similar to that set of values that a mathematical function can use. So as you see here, inputs can have different, or can be different types. So here, for example, this system can process a voice. This system can process a visual input. That's of course only an example. Within visual inputs, this system can produce light that is falling into ultraviolet range, this one in the normal light range. So this is, for example, okay. Let's take the example of what is here also written. A cow is a system. The input is grass, the output is milk. So if you give meat to the cow to eat, like for a wolf, then won't produce milk. So that's very very childish level, the input and acceptance range. So the acceptance range of the cow is those plants that are like grass and can be transformed into milk. Input and output. The very interesting with this input-output issue is that an output is an information, say, or anything that can be seen as information, is used by another system, and this is repeated, but it's not necessary to be repeated, then they form a new system. Here this has an input, and here output. So is the same issue, but seen from two different perspectives. Here we see two systems. Here we see one, but bigger one. Here we see that input arrives here, is transformed into output, then the output goes here. It's used as an input, transformed, goes as an output. Here, the whole process is simplified, and the information flows over. The whole system's input reaches the system, goes over, is transformed into output. Of course, the two transformations, the transformation 1 and transformation 2, is here a transformation X that is some kind of combination of transformation 1 and 2. And just to stay and remain visible, if two people are communicating with each other, and one is listening to the others, what is he saying, then they are forming a new system. And here's an example of a man and a woman that are forming a couple. Of course, for this reason, to form a couple, it should be that one should have an output and the other should listen to it, and the acceptance ranges should match. So the output should fall into the acceptance range of this one. So the man in this example should say something that can be processed by the woman. Okay. Connecting two systems, it's not just sounds good, but has also serious measurable advantages. Here are some reasons why I wouldn't like to say worse. Why it's worse for systems matching, because it's again a human notion that something is worth something. But why systems connect? So why do we meet in reality only systems that are trying to connect? Is because those systems that are not trying to connect, they are not surviving, and this has no value. So connecting is not something valuable. Those systems that are not trying to connect, they just disappear, or they have higher probability that they should disappear. Of course, we all know that there were lonely wolves that were able to, also in the history, people that were living alone were delivering excellent performance, but also they were communicating, and they were, at least if we know about them, they were communicating with us in written or whatever. So those systems that would like to stay alone and they don't connect, they are high chance to disappear. So the advantages of connections is emergence or synergy. Emergence means that two systems that they were not able separated to perform something together, they are able to perform something extra that is not a simple addition. Synergy means that what is neutral for one system is good for the other one. So together they can perform better again than alone. In this slide, I show the very simple and everyday what happens when no restructuring is needed. It's very similar to what people do in the morning. They woke up, they go, they wash their teeth, they eat, they take a shower, whatever, and they are not thinking too much. They are doing it automatically because here is the alarm clock as an input, and here is the person arrived in the office. So what is in between, this is taking a shower, this is washing hands, this is sitting in a bus, this is going to the office. So these small steps, you don't need too much to think about. There's no learning needed. It's adaptive. You just do it. Here you can see also the daily routine, the reflexes. We have all learned in school what is a reflex. When you hit your body parts, they are moving. These are the habits. But sometimes information cannot just flow through the system because either the input was different or something has changed in the system, or the output that is produced cannot be used by other systems. So, or it's not producing output at all. And there is always the same thing behind. No matter that we are talking about two countries, two cells, or two human beings. And that's very, very funny with this rapid repeated restructuring paradigm. That the connection is not working well. The mismatching systems, the bad connections, can be two types. The intersystem, where here you see the shapes are different. So this one delivers an output that this one is not able to use. So the acceptance is the range of this one. So the information here is not falling into the acceptance range of this one. It can be intersystem, and this means that within a system there is a problem, the information flows on other channels, but here there's a stop. We all see, especially if you take into account the nested hierarchy of living systems, that these are nested, and what I have begun with, the living systems are built from parts, and those also from parts, that this one is the same. Just it's a point of view with what we handle as intersystem or intrasystem. How do we repair these bad connections? Repairing bad connections is done by restructuring. Rapid, repeated restructuring. Restructuring means that here we see that these two shapes are not fitting because the information flows this way, they are linked in this way. They have to fall into parts. I mean, this system has to be dismounted and reconnected. You see that here there were some changes compared to this one. And so the shape of this, the output of this system has changed, and now information can flow freely. Again, this is unconscious. Unconscious, my God, this is a very, very human notion. By unconscious, I would like to say that there is no external agent that is doing this restructuring. The laws of the universe are doing the restructuring. they are consuming resources, and the systems are linking to each other, like ants are moving. We see the ants as they are moving really silly or randomly, but they are not. They know exactly they are following their reflexes, as the restructuring also is following the laws of universe. But from a very high point of view, you see the ants as walking randomly. They are following scents or different channels, whatever, I don't know exactly, but they are not behaving randomly. If you were an ant, you would know exactly why you are going in that direction and why you are turning to the right and next to the left. So, back again, these changes are, we see them random, and it's a trial error. You try a new setup of interlinkedness or interconnectedness is created, and then comes the testing. Is the information flowing like we request? No, it's not. Then a new disintegration reconnection cycle comes. It's not flowing. Yes, it's flowing. Okay, then this is conserved. Okay, here maybe there are two ways of changing or repairing two connections. One is that the acceptance range changes here. See. The other is that when the output is changed. So either this system or this system has to restructure. Usually only one is restructuring. There's no reason why both should restructure. They can change roles. One this restructures, then this, then this, and this. But to do it parallelly, it's not a winning strategy. Yes, it's a question when to restructure. It's depending on your acceptance range. You have some expectations, and these expectations are setting your acceptance range. If your performance falls into the acceptance range, then it's okay. If not, you are restructuring. It's a good question also where to restructure, and that can be a higher level. So here you see this one. Here, one block is something like this, 3 times 3. This is one block. So one block can restructure, or in the small part of block is restructuring. Yeah, here I go into very details of how the restructuring happens, and I introduce a suspension, the notion of suspension. You have seen earlier that that two systems, if they are linked, then when restructuring, you have to take them into parts. And when you take into parts, then you don't have the first bad solution, but you don't have the new good solution either. So the suspension is a special situation when you are not able to deliver even bad outputs. And restructuring goes exponentially. So first this is restructured, but maybe it's not solving the problem. Then the next one, then the all around is still not solving. Then this top line is falling into parts, then the whole system, and luckily then has solved the has restructured, and now the information can flow freely. The very tricky in this whole issue is that we can also measure, at least on theoretical level, what happens during restructuring. You see that here we have 100 available subsystems that are working and performing, and you turn off 1, then 4, 9, 16. So here you reach that you have only 70 working subsystems, and here you solve the problem, because this 30 what is difference is they reconnect in a different shape, and the different shape is delivering that output that you expected. So you are connecting back, turning on the big systems. I mean the higher level systems first. This one, then so on, 25, 16 until the last, and you get such kind of pattern that also leads you to a higher level of total amount of available subsystems. So you have here 125 instead of 100, because a new integrated system has been evolved or has been created, and this new system is the new knowledge. Due to this integrated, you had two systems that were not connected, and now you have them connected into one, integrated into one. And this one, you remember the emergence and the synergy issue. Now you can do something even more complex, and that's why you reach a higher level. So from 100 to 125. Restructuring is not endless. Parallel with restructuring, there's a testing. It's the testing process. You're always checking whether the new setup of the systems, how they were connected, is performing well or not. If not, then you start restructuring. If yes, then you are testing by connecting to other systems, that is it really well designed. It's the same if you have a new thought, new idea. You are happy, it seems to be okay, and you start to test to connect with other schemas of you, other ideas of you. That is it not contradicting? Contradiction is a bad connection. So when you say that something is contradicting, then those two systems that they are contradicting to each other, they are not able to be connected. Oh, yeah, manipulation chamber. Manipulation chamber, very shortly, is a special system where you can copy paste those subsystems that physically are far from each other, or the communication between them is bad. You're copying them into a small space where you can manipulate them faster. You can dismount and mount
remount faster, so the restructuring can happen faster. So that's the rapid from the repeated restructuring. So you should, speed is a key issue in adaptation, and the manipulation chamber helps this. And the manipulation chamber, you can see it in at humans. It's a consciousness. It's not a must to have this manipulation chamber. A tree won't have a manipulation chamber because it has no such big degree of freedom on what to do. So it's not worth maintaining a manipulation chamber that is quite expensive or resource needing. But humans have, organizations have, we are calling them management meeting. A small organization that has no such big degree of freedom, has not a big management, has one manager. So it has to maintain an expensive management level, an expensive team of people, the managers, and they shouldn't have a management meeting. So at small organizations, there is no manipulation chamber. Okay. Yeah. Here is just some self-advertisement. First of all, if I made you interested in this topic, you can read my book, where it's described very detailed, carefully, and a little bit boring. What is this? How the living systems operate. This is the boring part. Is this academic edition? The self-expansion, the student edition. It's really a funny book that I can recommend for everybody. That's more psycho issue. It's a psychology. So it's this whole model that I presented you used in psychology. So using this, just what is this whole paradigm usable for? You can see some topics. What can be defined very, very carefully and precisely by system theory notions, and it could integrate these sciences. Okay, this is how the academic edition looks like. This is freely downloadable, so you don't need to pay for it. And here you see the table of contents. Yeah, it's free because it's a little bit boring. It's not boring, but very detailed. The student edition, what looks exactly the same, but it's blue with blue cover. That's you can download it for free if you are registering at www.site2.org, or you can buy it in print both at Amazon, or you can order it on the same homepage. Thank you very much for your attention, and have a nice day.